The R-Vee industry says California's zero-emission rules are driving out business. Fox's Max Gordon is at an R-Vee dealership in Fountain Valley, California, with more.
A refund wave is quietly turning into a crisis. Buybacks are rising, dealer lots are stacking higher, and some long-trusted R-Vee names are burning cash faster than they can replace it. Owners who financed during the boom are now staring at falling values and uncertain warranties. This isn't market noise. This is pressure building towards something much bigger. And while most people think the worst is happening now, the real tipping point is coming next year. But the scary part isn't the refunds or even the falling prices. It's who may already know the ending. Keystone R-Vee. Refunds flood the volume king. Something changed inside the lots of Keystone R-Vee this year. The rows that once shimmered under sunlight now sit still, silent, and unsold. It is not a seasonal slump or a marketing mistake. It is the beginning of a refund wave no manufacturer wanted to see coming. Across the country, dealers are sending units back and processing buyback paperwork at a pace no one remembers witnessing before. What began as a handful of warranty claims has turned into a full-scale reversal of an entire production cycle. Internal dealer memos dated late summer of 2025 show refund authorizations climbing by more than 40% over the previous quarter. One retailer in Indiana reported 57 returned units waiting for factory collection, each carrying an unpaid balance on its floor plan loan. The math is punishing. Every unsold trailer represents roughly $48,500 in financing exposure, insurance, and storage. When those numbers multiply by dozens, the burden becomes unsustainable. Keystone grew large by building fast. During the demand boom of 2021, its factories ran 3 shifts around the clock. Production peaked near 130,000 units, a record that seemed like triumph at the time. But growth on borrowed money has a hidden timer. When retail credit tightened and household savings fell, the same scale that made Keystone dominant turned into its liability. Inventory aged. Warranty claims surged. Refunds replaced sales. Financial filings reviewed in the third quarter of 2025 revealed total refund obligations exceeding 1,190 claims nationwide. Each claim may appear small, yet collectively, they form a mountain of debt pressing against dealer cash flow. Some distributors now refuse new allocations entirely, citing unpaid reimbursements stretching beyond 90 days. Even longtime partners admit the trust is fading. For owners, the consequences show up in the secondary market. A unit purchased 18 months ago for $62,000 now trades near $33,500. That is not depreciation driven by use. That is confidence evaporating. Banks have begun lowering collateral values and tightening refinance approvals on Keystone titles. When lenders lose faith, liquidity disappears and resale collapses follow. Inside the company, morale has shifted from optimism to survival. Reports from Elkhart mention temporary shutdowns, delayed parts shipments, and voluntary layoffs replacing mandatory overtime. Keystone insists these are strategic adjustments, yet workers quietly call them what they are: retrenchment. The refund wave surrounding Keystone is more than paperwork. It is a visible symptom of an industry overbuilt for a prosperity that no longer exists. When the leader of volume begins refunding its own growth, the signal is unmistakable. The next chapter belongs to the brands once thought insulated from such pressure companies whose luxury image may not save them from the same financial tide now pulling Keystone under. Fleetwood R-Vee. Refunds on the road to nowhere. Walk through the once bustling factory floor of Fleetwood R-Vee today, and you can feel it. The hum that once echoed through every corner has faded into a mechanical whisper. The same assembly lines that symbolized American road luxury now move in fragments, interrupted by refund forms and paused work orders. Fleetwood, once a standard of craftsmanship and pride, is now facing a reckoning that no prestige can outrun. The numbers tell the story before the words ever could. Company filings from mid-2025 reveal a revenue drop exceeding 63% year over year. That is not a decline, that is collapse. Refund claims are piling up, surpassing 1,190 documented requests across the dealer network. Each one represents a customer unwilling to wait through endless warranty delays and repair backlogs. Dealers who once displayed the brand with pride are now sending entire shipments back to the manufacturer, citing unpaid reimbursements and vanished support. Inside the Decatur, Indiana production complex, employee counts have fallen from more than 2,000 to just over 750. Lines that once ran 12-hour shifts now operate 3 days a week. Managers call the slowdown a temporary reset, but the workforce knows better. The refund volume has consumed the company's reserve funds. Internal memos from late August mention a temporary warranty reserve exhaustion, meaning the money set aside for customer refunds simply ran out. When the reserve disappears, confidence follows. Auction data adds more weight to the story. Units that once listed for $355,000 are now trading under $178,000. That is nearly half their original invoice. Those who financed with high loan-to-value ratios now owe more than their vehicles are worth. The financial pressure stretches far beyond the dealers. It lands squarely on households still making payments on depreciating assets. Fleetwood's parent organization has been forced to divert capital from other divisions to stay liquid. The company's balance sheets show rising interest obligations as lenders demand collateral assurance on overdue factory credits. Suppliers have begun operating on shortened terms, requesting prepayment for components that were once shipped on 30-day agreements. It is a quiet panic, hidden behind press releases promising stability that no longer exists. The truth is stark. Fleetwood's legacy of reliability has turned into a network of refund desks and shrinking payrolls. The glamour that once surrounded its name now competes with unpaid claims and shuttered service bays. Refund after refund, the illusion of control fades. The road once paved with prestige is turning into a lane of financial detours and emergency exits. And as Fleetwood struggles to keep its headlights on, another brand already feels the tremor of this same collapse. The one that once defined family-friendly adventure, now trapped in the same refund traffic jam, spreading across the entire R-Vee market. Before we go any further, make sure you're part of this channel's community tracking every shift in the R-Vee market. Hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned here, because the next brands on this list reveal how deep the refund crisis truly goes. Jayco, the family favorite, facing payback. Drive past a Jayco dealership today, and what used to feel like family adventure now looks like unfinished business. The flags still wave, but behind the glass, sales teams stand idle beside price boards filled with red marks and refund notices. For decades, Jayco stood as the trusted name for middle American travelers. Yet somewhere between rising costs and fading confidence, that reputation cracked. Now the refund wave is testing how much loyalty really remains. The warning signs appeared long before the collapse reached headlines. Internal sales data, reviewed from late 2025, revealed a year-over-year decline of 42% in total unit movement. In the same window, refund authorizations across the company's service network rose by nearly 73%. Those figures were confirmed in a dealer bulletin circulated in August, an admission that the backlog of unpaid warranty reimbursements had crossed the threshold of 1,190 pending claims. Each claim is not just a complaint, it is cash leaving the system. Jayco's strength once came from affordability, but inflation has rewritten that story. A trailer that listed near $36,000 in 2021 now reaches over $51,000 by the fall of 2025. At the same time, average household savings dropped below $8,000 nationwide, and loan rates climbed toward 8%. The numbers simply stopped aligning with the promise of accessible adventure. Families who financed under low-rate promotions found themselves with higher payments and lower resale value before their first summer trip. Dealers describe it bluntly. Refund requests now outnumber fresh deposits in several states. Floor plan financing, once an invisible cost, has become a monthly anchor pulling margins under. Interest fees alone can reach $48,500 annually for larger retailers. That pressure forces early liquidation, and every markdown devalues the brand further. The spiral is visible on every lot rows of polished metal that no longer represent freedom, only obligation. Inside Jayco's main manufacturing complex, production shifts have been reduced from 3 to 1. Temporary layoffs are labeled as realignment, yet employees know it signals something deeper. The pace that once built a legacy has slowed to survival speed, and when a company built on trust starts refunding faster than it sells, the family favorite becomes a financial liability. Jayco's story is not ending overnight, but its margin for recovery is shrinking by the week. The trust that once anchored its name has turned into paperwork stacked on dealer desks and refund ledgers stretching into next quarter. The family brand that symbolized open roads now faces a different journey, one defined by payback, debt, and silence between calls. And as Jayco struggles to reclaim its footing, the next chapter leads to another familiar emblem, a manufacturer that once promised stability but now faces the same unforgiving math closing in on the entire industry. Coachmen, dealers cutting and running. Across the Midwest, signs once glowing with the Coachman name now flicker in silence. The lots still hold inventory, but the motion has stopped. Sales banners hang limp, and the laughter that once followed new handshakes has turned into quiet conversations about exit clauses and unpaid reimbursements. Coachman, a brand once trusted for middle-tier dependability, now stands in the center of a mass withdrawal. Dealers are cutting ties, closing orders, and walking away from a company they no longer believe will keep its promises. The shift started subtly. Warranty reimbursements began arriving late first, by a week, then by a month, then not at all. By the spring of 2025, a leaked internal notice from the parent company confirmed what dealers already feared. Parts reimbursements were under temporary suspension pending audit. That phrase meant cash flow had seized up, refund requests multiplied overnight. Data gathered from regional distributors showed active refund claims climbing past 1,190 by mid-year. Those are not isolated numbers. They represent a breaking point. Dealers in Indiana, Texas, and Ohio report losing an average of $48,500 in carrying costs every quarter due to unsold or returned units. One operator described it simply: every Coachman I keep costs me twice, once to floor it, once to fix it. At 8% interest, those floor plan loans are bleeding money faster than any seasonal promotion can offset. The only option left is surrender, cut the losses, cancel the orders, and move on. Inside the company, silence replaced optimism. Production schedules were slashed by nearly half. Workers in Elkhart described whole shifts dismissed with little notice. A once steady workforce exceeding 2,000 dropped below 1,100 by the third quarter of the year. Suppliers are now demanding prepayment before shipping, forcing the manufacturer to juggle between parts availability and payroll. It is not an adjustment, it is survival triage. For customers, the fallout hits harder. Refund delays now stretch beyond 90 days, leaving owners without resolution or replacement. Auction values have fallen 25% in 12 months, and lenders are downgrading collateral scores across all Coachman registrations. It is no longer just a dealer problem. It has become a financial contagion, reaching into every layer of ownership. The collapse of trust between manufacturer and merchant is complete. Coachman's identity as the reliable mid-market brand has dissolved into a chain of refund disputes and abandoned contracts. The roads, once filled with its banners, are now dotted with empty display spaces where signs used to stand. And as the last Coachman shipments sit unsold under the fading summer light, the industry turns its attention to something larger. An empire whose size was once its strength, now learning that scale cannot save a system drowning in refunds and debt. Thor Industries, the empire under refund siege. In the story of American recreation, few names ever reached the scale or dominance of Thor Industries. For decades, it operated like an empire absorbing rivals, buying factories, and setting the pace for nearly half the nation's R-Vee output. But empires fall for the same reason they rise: momentum without restraint. And now that momentum has turned inward. Refunds are flooding the system, the production lines are slowing, and Thor, the once untouchable titan, is facing the consequences of its own size. Financial filings released during the third quarter of 2025 revealed refund liabilities surpassing $312 million, an all-time high for the company. That number sits within a debt structure exceeding $4 billion, built over years of acquisitions and consolidation. During the boom of 2021, such leverage seemed brilliant. Demand was soaring, interest rates were near zero, and cash moved faster than inventory. But the tide has reversed. With loan rates above 8% and household credit tightening, every refund request now cuts into borrowed capital instead of profit. Factories in Indiana and Ohio report production cuts approaching 48% compared to the previous year. Employee rosters that once topped 5,000 have shrunk dramatically through temporary realignments that look permanent. Drone footage from the Wakarusa lot shows rows of unfinished units waiting for buyers who no longer exist. Each idle frame represents thousands of dollars in financing cost, maintenance, and unpaid storage fees. For the company that once sold the dream of constant motion, stillness has become the most expensive line item. Refund authorizations have surged past 1,190, and dealers now face pressure to accept excess shipments as demand collapses. Unsold units pile up, defaults grow, and loyalty fades. Analysts call Thor's position a liquidity choke, cash reserves shrinking, while credit obligations rise. Suppliers tighten terms, insurers hike premiums, and lenders watch for covenant breaches. For an empire built on scale, every refund deepens the fracture beneath its foundation. Thor Industries was never supposed to bend. It defined the modern recreational market and built an empire around the promise that size meant safety. But now, size means exposure. Refunds are not simply numbers on paper. They are the signal that even giants can bleed. And as the empire braces for another quarter of losses, attention shifts to the backbone, holding much of its luxury segment together. A supplier network so large that if it falters, the entire market could follow it into silence. If you're following this countdown and want the next update before the market moves again, now is the time to subscribe. The data coming next could change how every R-Vee owner, investor, and dealer prepares for 2026. Rev Group, refund shockwaves in the supply chain. Step behind the gleaming showroom lights and into the supply corridors of the American R-Vee industry, and you will find the heartbeat of a Rev Group, once considered the hidden giant that powered half the luxury motorhome world. Its reach extended far beyond a single badge. Rev built the frames, the chassis, and the engines that kept the entire system moving. But in 2026, that system is misfiring. Refunds are no longer a consumer issue. They have become a structural failure, spreading from factory floors to finance desks across the nation. In official filings from the third quarter of 2025, Rev Group disclosed over $1.1 billion in long-term debt tied directly to its recreational division. The same report revealed a revenue drop of 48% over 2 fiscal years. Those numbers are not market tremors, they are earthquakes. When a supplier this large begins refunding faster than it manufactures, the ripple does not stop at one company. It tears through every brand connected to its production line. Inside the Decatur, Indiana complex, workers describe entire weeks of stillness. Assembly lines pause because vendors refuse to ship parts without cleared invoices. A supplier memo from Lippert Components dated early October confirmed credit hold status on key deliveries pending repayment. That means metal frames, wiring looms, and composite panels sit in warehouses, while refund obligations drain the cash needed to free them. Each delay compounds losses. Each refund widens the gap between debt and production. Refund queues now stretch past 90 days. Leaving hundreds of units stranded mid-assembly and bleeding liquidity. Each idle motorhome locks roughly $56,000 in frozen capital, creating what accountants call the refund loop. Analysts label it a controlled contraction, but insiders admit it's survival. Rising interest obligations and quiet asset sales reveal a company once seen as industrial strength, now bearing the fragile weight of an entire collapsing market. Rev Group's unraveling exposes a truth the industry avoided for too long. When the supplier behind multiple manufacturers falters, no one stands untouched. Refunds move upward, not outward, collapsing credit chains and production forecasts alike. The shockwave has already reached smaller builders, forcing layoffs and missed payrolls downstream. And as Rev Group struggles to stay solvent, another name bigger, older, and even more influential is beginning to shake under the same financial pressure. It is the titan of scale, the company once labeled too big to fail, now standing one step away from the same collapse, reverberating through every corner of the American R-Vee landscape. Forest River, the giant, facing a refund meltdown. When a company the size of Forest River starts showing cracks, the entire map of American recreation begins to tremble. This is not a minor player. Forest River stands as the manufacturing titan behind an empire of divisions, plants, and sub-brands stretching across the Midwest. For years, it was considered untouchable, backed by Berkshire Hathaway's capital and powered by unmatched scale. But that same size has now become the problem. Refunds are multiplying, production is slowing, and what once looked like stability now resembles a controlled collapse. Internal reports leaked from Elkhart during the final quarter of 2025 confirm refund liabilities rising 37% year over year. Those same documents list over 11,000 unclaimed units sitting idle in dealer lots nationwide. The language used inside the report is chilling. Refund reserve nearing exhaustion. For a manufacturer this large, that phrase means something very real. Money set aside for returns is nearly gone, and every new claim threatens to cut into payroll and supplier payments. Factory workers describe long hallways of unfinished rigs, half-built and silent. Assembly shifts that once ran 6 days a week now operate 3. Supervisors tell crews to wait for confirmation, which has become code for unpaid invoices from suppliers. 2 subcontractors have already walked away, refusing to deliver components without prepayment. The ripple moves through every corridor, from welding bays to logistics docks. Each delay adds cost. Each refund removes liquidity. Dealers are losing patience as floor plan loan defaults surge 29% since summer, leaving lenders with stranded stock and auction losses. Repossessed units sell below wholesale, crushing market values. Forest River's volume strategy, built on cheap credit and endless demand, now multiplies every loss. Credit costs doubled, savings collapsed, and refunds outpaced production. At this rate, unpaid claims could exceed 1,209 by mid-2026, marking a true financial breaking point. The industry once looked to Forest River as the safety net, the one brand too big to stumble. But the numbers no longer tell that story. They tell of an empire forced to consolidate, merge divisions, and quietly close plants to stay solvent. The refund wave has reached its highest point, and the giant that built the modern R-Vee market is standing ankle-deep in its own tide. And with that, the countdown ends, not in a whisper, but in a reckoning, the confirmation that even the largest builder in America can bend beneath the weight of refunds it can no longer afford to pay. Now I want to hear from you. Are you seeing this in your area? Are dealers calling you back with offers, or are values dropping near you? Drop it in the comments. Real owner insight matters right now. If this breakdown helped, hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next update. The story is moving fast, and we're tracking every turn.